welcome back to the Mortal Realms. Before we get on with our Citadel skulls, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who participated in a post I put out a few days ago asking about content for the channel. So I've been speaking to a few publishers and board game creators, and I'm going to start bringing more reviews to the channel outside of the general Warhammer stuff. So over the course of the next month or so, I'm going to be featuring a lot of more board game stuff. A lot of that will be new board games. Some of it will be looking back at old games. We're going to do a little series on solo games since we're kind of going back into a mini lockdown here in the UK. And so there's going to be much more content coming up soon. And thank you for everyone's feedback on that, because that's helped me to decide which direction I want to push in. So thanks very much. But anyway, back on to issue 32, Citadel skulls. We've also got a bit about painting models' bases, and then we've got core rules update for attacking. So, skulls for the skull throne. So we should have had 4 sprues today. I got 3. Normally, I'd be jumping up and down about how angry I am and getting 3 sprues instead of 4. But luckily, I already own the box that this comes in. I already own that box twice over, so I have more skulls than I could ever use. So yeah, never mind. It was a packing error as well. It wasn't that the cellophane on the magazine was open or anything like that. It was just a pure packing error, which is good. Sorry, it's not good, but I've seen that some people have only got 2. I think I saw some posts on Facebook for some people that had only received 2 sprues. So I got 3, but you should have 4. It's got on here, contents 4 times plastic sprues, along with a code for it. Anyway, we'll look at these in a minute. Let's just have a little whiz through the magazine and see what we've got. In this issue, Skulls for the Skull Throne, Bellow the Followers of Khorne. This issue comes with more than enough to make an offering to the Dark God, as there are 340 of them. In the next issue, you'll use them to decorate your models' bases. Many of your models have sculpted bases though. These don't need Citadel skulls to look great, so this issue's paint guide will show you how to paint them. By the end of the guide, your bases with sculpted terrain on them will be beautifully painted, and your model collection will start to look complete. Nothing makes a model look finished like a well-painted base. So what are we going to learn about today? Astral Templars. We've got Rise of the Wraiths Part 4. We're looking at Slaanesh, the Dark Prince. Our paint guide for our bases. An update to the core rules for attacking, and an attacking tutorial. And then we've got the soul pods. Another battle plan. Okay, so if we look at the skulls first, because I know that some people just hang around just to look at the built models and that kind of thing. So for those of you who don't sit through the rest of the content, we'll just go through this first. So basically we've got 2 duplicated sprues. Obviously I've got one missing. So we'll look at the main one, which is just like a general kind of overview. So these ones at the top are the top half of orc skulls, and there's the full skull there with the jaws intact. Now these aren't specific to Age of Sigmar, so they do include these ones, which are like Tyranid or Gene Stealer ones. Yeah, quite a lot of them. Quite a lot of those. Got some which are just jawbones. Some little diddy towel ones there. Not sure what those are. They're Kroot. And then a huge amount, hundreds of human skulls. And then on the other sprue, we've got more human skulls with some damage. Human skulls with just the jaw bones missing. These ones look like there's a single eye in those. So they look like, I believe they might be some of the sort of Nurgle type ones as well. Got some demons. On this side, more demons. Much more. There's a giant skull there. The top smashed off of it. There's an intact one down the other end with more demonic stuff. Then we've got one great big mama one, which comes in 2 parts. So they are what they are, but they are cool. I do like these sprues. They do come in handy, but like I say, I've already got loads of them, and I doubt I'll ever run out of them. Okay, so let's go back to the magazine. Astral Templars. The Astral Templars were once barbaric mortals, and they have lost none of their savagery during reforging. They specialise in hunting monsters, just as they had once hunted giant beasts to survive. And they are purple. And awesome as well. There's a bit of heraldry there. There's a concussor and a liberator. Then we've got Rise of the Wraiths Part 4. From across the mortal realms, night haunt spirits flock to the siren's call of the Mortarch of Grief. They mustered together in Nagashazar to be divided into armies. They were then sent out to the realms to conquer in the name of the great necromancer Nagash. Rise, my subjects, rise and join the procession. Rise and join the shrouded parade of death. We shall make our enemies weep. Okay, so more on that. So when this, I've said previously that when we've got some large ranging articles that go over multiple issues, I'll wait till they're complete, then I'll go back and do a full overview of those articles in the future. Then we've got Chaos, Slaanesh, the Dark Prince. The most subtly evil of the Chaos gods, Slaanesh represents dark fates born of obsession. His will does not descend screaming upon his victims, nor does it carefully manipulate them like an uncaring cosmic force. Instead, it nestles in the soul, corrupting the hearts of mortals until they damn themselves. So he's got a demonic rivalry with Khorne. The rivalry between Khorne and Slaanesh is as old as the gods themselves. Khorne despises Slaanesh's decadence and finds his wayward attitude at odds with his own single-minded desire for slaughter. Slaanesh, meanwhile, finds Khorne's brutality dull and takes a cruel delight in goading and agitating his elder brother. What a lovely pair. Okay, now we're looking at the bases. So some of the... so interestingly that we've got this week, because I know that next week we have got Early Look, Sterling Mud Technical, so to do more of our bases. But here we've got Mechanica Standard Grey, which is basically going to go over most of the bases, so covering paving stones and gravestones and rocks. Corax White. We'll go on statues, pillars and ruins on the bases. And again on a dry brush on paved stones, gravestones and rocks, anything we did with Mechanica Standard Grey before. Agrax Earthshade over paving stones, statues and gravestones. Then we've got another dry brush of Corax White. Then we've got Dryad Bark on some of the ground areas with a dry brush of Rykar Flesh. Dryad Bark then goes on leaves and vines and wood and on a coin bag. Abaddon Black on ammo boxes, undead ravens and ballista bits. Rykar Flesh. Then goes on to the smashed pot, tone pages and the rope of this guy there. Also on skulls, bones and the bird skull. Then we're lead belching all of the metal areas. Balthazar gold on there's some coins that are on that one. corners and the spine of this book, and a skull that's still got a helmet on. God, this is quite an in-depth guide, this one. Corn red goes on that book as well. Mephiston red on some roses. Agrax Earthshade on the Skull and Bones roses and those pages of the book. Also on the smashed pot, the rope, and the helmet and coins. Then we're known oiling all of the vines, leaves, coin bag, wood, ballista bolts, railings, chains, and that book. And then on the edges, we're doing dryad bark. So this is roughly how it's all going to look when it's done. Okay, nice. Okay, so now we're looking at attacking. An update to the rules here. This section includes the rules for attacking. These rules are used in combination with the weapon profiles on a unit's war scroll in order to attack your foes. The attack sequence over the page is used for both melee and missile weapons. Okay, so it then goes through looking at your war scrolls, picking out the weapons that they use, including any weapons used by a mount if they've got one. Weapon options. It explains that missile weapons can only be used in the shooting phase and melee weapons can only be used in the combat phase. When a unit shoots or fights, you need to pick a target. If you can do 2 or more different weapons in the same phase, the unit can use the weapon in any order you wish after targets have been picked. But you must resolve all of the targets for one type of weapon before using the next type of weapon. Then it talks about missile weapons and the fact that it needs to be in range. Some missile weapons have a range characteristic with a minimum range. So for example, 6 to 48 inches. So that means if the opponent you're going to attack is less than 6 inches away, you can't attack it. Attacks characteristics, so that's basically the number of dice you can roll. So you don't just include what's on the war scroll, you include any effects that are made from, maybe there's some characters nearby that give you some extra attacks. In order to resolve several attacks at once, all of the attacks must be made by models of the same unit. Multiple hits, sometimes a single successful hit roll with a score of 2 will score 2 or more hits. If this is the case, make all of the wound rolls for those hits at the same time. And then it's got about checking for melee range. So you can see that we received, I don't know if you can see that little sort of range rule we've got there, little tiny one. We got one of these which we cut out in a previous issue. Basically, the square end at the bottom of that is a 1 inch range. So basically, if it fits within that, it's in range. If it's outside, it's not. Unless the model you're attacking with has a 2 inch range. So if it has a 2 inch range, then obviously, you know, that would be. Then it's got about making attacks, which we've covered previously in other issues. Allocating wounds, again, this is all basic stuff. This is stuff that we already know, but it's adding more information. There is some here actually that we haven't covered. So cover, add 1 to save rolls for a unit if all of its models are wholly on or within a terrain feature when the rolls are made. This modifier does not apply in the combat phase if the unit you are making save rolls for made a charge move in the same turn, and never applies to units containing models with the monster or war machine keyword that have a wounds characteristic of 8 or more. Then obstacles. Some terrain features are obstacles that block attacks to targets that lie beyond them. When this is the case, it will be noted on the war scroll for the terrain feature. And it's got a brief tutorial here, so you can see that we've got this liberator. These 2 liberators are on top of terrain. There's one chain rasp that's managed to get up there, and the rest are on the bottom. But because they are up here, they are within cover. As a unit of liberators are wholly on the terrain feature, they add 1 to their save rolls against the chain rasp attacks. This explains a bit about the obstacle cover bonus. The Briar Queen uses the Rending Scream attack on this Sequitur. The Briar Rose is closer to the Sequitur than to the Ruin. Both Stormcast Eternals are within 1 inch of the obstacle. only the Liberators receive the benefit of cover. However, the Briar Queen is going to attack these Liberators. She's closer to the terrain feature than she is to the Liberators, so they do get the benefit of cover there. So basically, if the model's closer, there's no cover. If the model's further away, there is cover. And then it's got a bit here about multiple weapons. The Grimghast Reapers are attacking the unit of Sequitors. The Nighthaunt player must pick which weapon to attack with first. So he chooses to make all of the attacks for models armed with the Slasher Scythes. The Slasher Scythes deal a total damage of 3. The Nighthaunt player then resolves the Extoller of Shyish attacks with the Death Knell, dealing a further 2 damage. So although they're in the same attack, they resolve these ones first, and then they do the Extoller of Shyish separately. And then with allocating wounds, you can see here Stormcast Eternal player allocates 3 wounds dealt by the Slasher Scythes. The first 2 are allocated and the Sequitor is slain. The third wound is allocated to the Sequitor at the rear. So the Sequitor at the back then takes the next wound. Then they allocate 2 wounds inflicted by the Death Knell. The previously wounded model is slain, so the Stormcast player allocates the bonus mortal wound, slaying another Sequitor. So basically, as soon as you start giving wounds to a particular model in a unit, you continue to allocate the wounds to the same model until it's gone, until it's dead. Okay, battle plan time. The Soul Pods. Old Nullroot stood before the Stormcast Eternals, his staff planted in the soft woodland floor. The weight of defeat pressed upon his ancient boughs. My people are nearly broken, he said. His creaking voice was thick with melancholy. The dead have overrun the ruins of Summersong. Their dark magic seeps through the forest, and our soul pods are lying in their path. I beseech you, children of Sigmar, help our cause, and we will in turn assist you by guiding you to the lair at the heart of the broken city. Ominous. Okay, so we've got securing the soul pods. So we've got the Knight of Shrouds, 9 Glaive Wraith Stalkers and 10 Chain Rasps up against Xandria Azure Bolt, 5 Sequitors and 3 Castigators. The objectives, remember we got some objective markers the last issue, so they are based diagonally across the board. So there's one dead centre, and then there's one halfway between the centre and that corner, and same this side. We've got some terrain now. We've got some more coming up in 2 weeks' time as well, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then our Stormcast Eternal, they deploy 6 inches this side, and Nighthaunt 6 inches that side. Setup is the setup. Place the terrain on the battlefield as shown. And again, we can come back to these battle plans as we get to receive more and more terrain. You know, we can come back to these and play them with those additional terrain features. So first turn is with the Nighthaunt, and then it's a glorious victory. The battle continues until the end of the 4th battle round. The player who controls the most objectives at the end of the game wins. Players control an objective by having more models within 3 inches of it. Within 3 inches of its centre. Okay, so that looks pretty good as well. Now, so next week, Joy of Joys, and thank you to one of the subscribers who pointed out the other day that we've got a texture tool coming next week, and this is the first texture tool we've received in a Warhammer Partworks. So between Mortal Realms and Conquest, we never received a texture tool, so that's good. We also get some Sterling Mud, which is nice, and again, so that's going to allow us to continue. I'm sure that when we get that, we'll get a continuation of the paint guide for bases, and then the following week we get the Dominion of Sigmar statue. So this is really cool. I got this with another Warcry set, but it's very, very cool, and it gives me an opportunity to paint slightly different to the one I've already got. So this is nice. I really like this piece. So that's it for the next 2 weeks. So what do you guys think? I think it's a pretty good issue. It's good to have the clarification on the attacking part of it. Most of it, almost all of it, is stuff that we already knew, but explains a bit more about what we do with cover and obstacles. The battle plan itself isn't too bad either. Pretty light in terms of the number of forces available. I was hoping it'd start to broaden this out and give us slightly larger battles. But you know, whilst we're still training and learning, and especially now that we've got some new rules to get our teeth into, I suppose it is a good idea to draw it back a bit. I do like the articles in here. I like the part about the Astral Templars, especially their kind of history. They specialise in hunting monsters, just as they once hunted giant beasts to survive. That's interesting. Rise of the Wraiths is going to be good when it's completed and we get a chance to go through all of it. This part here is Nagash summoning Lady Olinda. So yeah, it is good, and we can see now that our paint guides are really starting to flesh out. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 8 pages of paint guide this week just for bases. So yeah, things are progressing very, very nicely. So that's it for this week. I'll be back next week to look at some stone and mud and a texture tool. And thanks again to everyone who participated in the community post that I put about ongoing reviews and that kind of thing. So those reviews are due to start in the next few days. In fact, the day after this goes out, I'll be reviewing an RPG, English Eerie, and I'll be doing the free version of that, or the pay what you want version of that. But we'll be going through that because it's very good. But thanks again for watching, guys. Much appreciated, and I'll catch you later.